What if mold is spreading through your building right now and you don't even know it? Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a massive stack of commercial HVAC protocols, case studies, and some really fascinating engineering reports from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, and it turns out the air ducts in your office might be suffering from this microscopic infestation that specialists out there actually call Georgia sludge.
Which just sounds terrible. But today, our mission is to explore this invisible ecosystem living inside commercial air ducts. We're getting into how it silently sabotages workplace health and business operations and, the actual science of eradicating it.
It's a genuinely unsettling thought, honestly. We're relying pretty heavily on field data today from Hurricane Group. They're a premier property restoration and HVAC hygiene specialist operating right in the thick of Atlanta's extreme humidity.
Right, where it's just a swamp for half the year.
Exactly. And what becomes immediately clear from their service documents is that we aren't talking about like a little harmless dust on a ceiling vent. We are looking at the mechanics of sick building syndrome and the literal hospital-grade technology required to neutralize microbial threats hiding right inside your walls.
I mean, if a team can conquer mold in Georgia's humidity, they have to know exactly what they're doing. So let's start with the biology of the building itself. Before a specialized crew even steps foot on the property, how does a massive commercial facility actually get sick?
Well, it's really all about unintended consequences in commercial engineering.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So mold spores are naturally everywhere, right? They exist in the outside air all the time, but they're completely dormant until they find the right environment.
Okay, so they need moisture and a food source. How does an air conditioning system provide that?
Right. So in a place like Georgia, where average humidity levels frequently exceed 70%, the moisture is practically built into the atmosphere.
Oh, sure.
When that hot, heavy air gets pulled into a commercial HVAC system, it hits the evaporator coils. And those coils are freezing cold because they hold the refrigerant.
Ah, I see where this is going. What happens when hot, humid air hits a freezing surface? It's exactly like a glass of ice water sitting on a patio in July.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
The outside of the glass just starts dripping with sweat.
Precisely.
Hmm.
So now, the internal mechanics of your HVAC system are coated in this perpetual layer of moisture. That's the first half of the recipe.
And the second half is the food, right?
Yeah. An office building is a hive of activity. You've got, thousands of people walking around, kicking up microscopic organic debris.
Like dust and pollen.
Dust, pollen, skin cells, textile fibers from carpets. The HVAC system basically acts as a massive building-wide circulation network, pulling all of that particulate matter right into the return vents.
So the dust hits the condensation on the coils.
Exactly. When you mix that high humidity and constant condensation with all those airborne particulates, it creates this really thick, toxic, moisture-trapping layer inside the ductwork.
Ah, the Georgia sludge.
The Georgia sludge. It's a dark, sticky matrix. And to a dormant mold spore, it is an absolute buffet.
Wow.
The spores root into that sludge, specifically around the evaporator coils and the blower motors, and they just start to colonize.
If we think about the commercial HVAC system as the respiratory system of the building, and it has this sticky sludge lining its ducts, the building is basically breathing through congested, infected lungs.
That is the perfect visualization. And because the spores have established themselves right at the blower motor, every single time the AC kicks on, those freshly minted mold spores are caught in the airstream.
Oh, man, so they're just pumped continuously into the workspace.
Yeah, exactly. All day long.
Which means we really have to look at the collateral damage here, because this is where the title of our focus today, Mold in the Workplace. The silent business killer you can't see really comes into play. The spores are in the air, drifting down into the cubicles, right?
Right.
What actually happens to the people breathing this engineered air for like 8 to 10 hours a day?
Well, this is the human cost of sick building syndrome. The field documents note a very distinct pattern. Employees don't necessarily realize the air is contaminated, but their immune systems definitely do.
So what are the symptoms?
They start experiencing unexplained shortness of breath, asthma flare-ups, chronic sinus congestion, and even burning itchy eyes and skin.
That sounds miserable.
It creates this low-level, building-wide malaise. And when your workforce feels physically unwell just from sitting at their desks, cognitive function drops and productivity absolutely plummets.
And as a facility manager or a business owner, you can't just chalk that up to allergy season. I mean, there is a massive business liability here.
Oh, a huge liability. You are bound by strict indoor air quality regulations. The field reports cite compliance with NADCA, which is the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, as well as OSHA safety guidelines.
Right, because OSHA mandates that employers provide a workplace free from recognized hazards.
Exactly. If your neglected HVAC system is actively breeding toxic mold and making people sick, you are stepping into a massive compliance nightmare.
Not to mention potential workers' comp claims.
Yeah, the liability is severe. But even if we look strictly at the operational budget, there's a massive financial drain happening right inside the mechanical room.
Oh, right, the energy costs. This makes total sense when you think about the physics of it. If those evaporator coils are covered in a thick blanket of Georgia sludge, they're basically insulated.
Yep.
And the whole point of the coil is to transfer heat out of the air. If it's wearing a sweater made of dust and mold, it can't cool the air efficiently.
Exactly. The thermal transfer drops drastically. So the air coming out of the vents isn't cold enough, and the thermostat just tells the system to keep running.
Working overtime.
Right. At the same time, the blower motors are straining. They're physically trying to push air through ducts that are narrowed and restricted by heavy debris. The system is working twice as hard to produce half the result.
And the data from Hurricane Group is staggering on this point. They show that cleaning those HVAC coils and blowers, like really removing years of that accumulated sludge, can actually reduce a commercial facility's energy consumption by up to 25%.
25%. Let that sink in.
For a massive corporate building,
Yeah.
25% is an astronomical amount of money just vanishing into dirty air ducts every single month, which is exactly why you need specialized professionals to intervene.
Oh, absolutely.
And that actually brings us to the sponsor of this deep dive, Hurricane Group. If you manage a facility or own a home, you cannot leave your indoor air quality to chance. Hurricane Group is Atlanta's leading specialist in HVAC hygiene and property restoration, with over 800 five-star reviews confirming their expertise.
They really know what they're doing.
They do. For commercial air duct cleaning in Atlanta, GA, you can call them right now at 404-236-6343. They provide IICRC certified solutions, which means they are trained to the highest global standards of inspection and cleaning. And that's not just for commercial air ducts, but for water damage emergency response, dryer vent cleaning, total crawl space encapsulation, and even high-end home renovations. Protect your people and your property. That's Hurricane Group at 404-236-6343.
And honestly, having an ICRC certified expert is non-negotiable here,
Mm-hmm.
because recognizing the mold threat is really only the diagnostic phase. Eradicating it from a commercial structure is an entirely different beast.
Wait, let me push back on the need for a specialized crew for a second. Most commercial office buildings already have a janitorial staff, right?
Sure.
They come in every night, they vacuum the carpets, they wipe down the desks, they even dust the grills on the outside of the air vents. Why isn't that standard surface cleaning enough to keep a building safe?
Well, it's really a question of scale and access. Standard janitorial crews are fantastic for the envelope of the room, but they cannot access the internal nervous system of the building.
I mean, that makes sense.
We are talking about commercial facilities that easily exceed 50,000 square feet. They have miles of internal, heavy-duty, galvanized steel ductwork suspended high above the drop ceilings.
Yeah, you simply cannot clean that with a stepladder and a shop vacuum.
Exactly. You need scalable industrial equipment.
Okay, so logically, if a specialized crew comes in and starts violently agitating all this toxic sludge deep inside the ductwork, how do they prevent a disaster? Like, if you knock all that dust loose, wouldn't it just blast out of the vents and cover everyone's desks in a toxic dust storm?
That is the exact logistical nightmare that untrained cleaners cause.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's why the sources detail a highly specialized four-step commercial restoration protocol. The very first challenge they tackle is preventing that cross-contamination.
Okay, so what's step one?
Before they clean, they do an industrial diagnostic. They deploy robotic crawlers and fiber optic cameras deep into the labyrinth of the system to physically map out the heavy buildup.
Wait, literal robots inside the air ducts?
Yeah, they need to know exactly where the sludge is thickest before they do anything.
That is so cool. So once they've mapped the enemy, how do they trap it?
Step 2 is zonal containment. They physically isolate specific sections of the building's ductwork. Then they introduce industrial-strength negative pressure vacuums.
Like big truck-mounted ones?
Massive ones. They attach the vacuum hoses to the isolated duct segment and turn them on, pulling huge amounts of air out of the duct.
Ah, so negative pressure means that the air pressure inside the duct is lower than the air pressure in the office.
Right.
So if there's any gap or open vent, The air only flows into the duct, never out. It's physically impossible for the dust to blow into the workspace because the vacuum is constantly inhaling.
Precisely. It creates a one-way airflow.
Hmm.
And once that containment is locked in, they move to step 3, which is pneumatic agitation.
Pneumatic agitation. Sounds intense.
It is. They insert compressed air whips and mechanical brushes into the ducts. And these aren't just stiff brooms, right? They're specialized tools powered by high-pressure air compressors that violently whip against the interior sheet metal.
Oh, to safely blast the baked-on sludge off the walls.
Exactly. And because that negative pressure vacuum is running the entire time, the second that sludge is knocked loose, it is instantly sucked out of the building and into a containment truck outside.
It's a brilliant piece of engineering. You're scrubbing the walls and inhaling the debris simultaneously.
Yeah. And then they finish with step 4, sanitization. Once the physical debris is completely removed, the internal metal is bare again. But because mold is microscopic, they have to apply EPA-registered antimicrobial treatments throughout the system.
To chemically neutralize any lingering microbes that survive the physical scrubbing.
You got it.
But practically speaking, if I'm running a busy corporate office or a massive retail center, I can't just shut down my operations for 3 days while crews in respirators run robots through my ceilings, right?
Yeah.
I mean, dragging giant vacuum hoses down the hallways. The lost revenue would be catastrophic.
The protocol actually accounts for that with zero disruption logistics.
How does that work?
These specialized crews operate 24/7. They intentionally schedule the invasive work for nights and weekends.
Ah, so they do it when the building is empty.
Exactly. They arrive after hours, establish their negative pressure containment, perform the pneumatic cleaning in zones, sanitize, and completely pack up before the sun even comes out.
So the business suffers absolutely zero downtime.
Zero. The employees walk in the next morning, and the only thing they notice is that the air smells incredibly fresh, and the HVAC is running quieter.
Okay, so the system is pristine. The ducts are shining, the coils are bare, the sludge is gone. But we still live in the real world. Next month, the humidity in Atlanta is going to spike right back up to 70%.
Oh, without a doubt.
If we don't change the environment, aren't we just waiting for the mold to grow back so we can call the robots again? How do we stop this at the source?
You're hitting on the most crucial phase of building management here. We have to move from active remediation, the cleaning, to continuous defense.
Right.
Cleaning is the cure, but you need to build a permanent immune system for your HVAC infrastructure. The field data highlights 2 mandatory upgrades to achieve this: high-capacity media filters and ultraviolet germicidal lights.
Okay, let's start with the filters. Because when most people think of an air filter, they picture that flimsy 1-inch cardboard square you just slide into a slot, which seems wildly inadequate for industrial mold.
Because it is. Standard 1-inch filters are essentially designed to stop golf balls and large boulders, metaphorically speaking.
Right, they just catch heavy dust and pet hair so it doesn't immediately destroy the blower motor.
Exactly. But against microscopic mold spores, they are totally useless. To actually protect a commercial system, you have to upgrade to high-capacity media filters. These are massive 4-inch or 5-inch thick filters with deep pleats.
And the sources mention these filters have MRV ratings between 11 and 16. What does MRV actually mean?
It stands for Minimum Efficiency Reporting Value. It's the industry standard for rating how effectively a filter traps microscopic particles. A standard cheap filter might be like a MERV 4. When you jump to a MERV 11 or 16, you are entering commercial near HEPA territory.
But wait, if the filter is incredibly dense to catch microscopic spores, doesn't it just suffocate the HVAC system? We just talked about how sludge blocks airflow and ruins energy efficiency. Wouldn't a super dense filter do the exact same thing?
That is exactly why they use deep pleats. By folding the filter material back and forth like an accordion in a 5-inch frame, they dramatically increase the surface area.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, a deep pleat media filter has up to 40 times the filtering surface area of a standard flat filter. The air has plenty of room to pass through without straining the motor, but the particulate matter gets caught in the massive web of synthetic fibers.
Wow, 40 times the area.
Yeah, and they trap 98% of airborne particulates down to a single micron. You are actively starving the mold of its food source before it ever reaches the dark, damp parts of the system.
That makes perfect sense. So the media filter handles the physical debris. What about the biological defense? You mentioned an HVAC UV light installation.
This is where we bring in the hospital-grade sterilization. Technicians install high-output UVC germicidal lamps directly inside the air handler.
Where exactly do they put them?
Well, they don't just put them anywhere. They position them to shine a continuous, intense beam of ultraviolet radiation directly onto the evaporator coils.
The exact spot where the condensation happens and where the mold actively tries to breed.
Exactly.
You know, a great way to visualize this combined defense is to think of a municipal water treatment plant.
Oh, okay. The massive media filter is like the physical grating at the intake. It catches the heavy debris, the branches, the sludge trying to get into the system. But the UV light, that is the chemical treatment phase. It actively sterilizes the microscopic pathogens that are tiny enough to slip through the physical grate.
That's a great way to put it. And the mechanism of that sterilization is fascinating biology. The UVC radiation physically penetrates the cell walls of the mold spores and airborne bacteria.
And then what happens?
Once inside, the light energy physically shatters the bonds in the microbes' DNA and RNA. It literally breaks their genetic code so they cannot replicate.
Wow.
And a spore that cannot replicate is a dead spore. Operating continuously, these lights boast a 99.9% kill rate against biological growth on the coils. You aren't just trapping the mold, you are genetically dismantling it.
Okay, so we've scrubbed the ducts, we've upgraded to deep-pleated media filters, we have DNA-destroying UVC lights shining on the coils.
Yeah.
The HVAC system is an absolute fortress at this point.
We're safe, right?
Well, you've secured the mechanical system. But this raises a blind spot that catches a lot of property managers off guard.
Oh, what is it?
You can have the most heavily fortified HVAC system in the world, but if the architectural envelope of the building itself is actively taking on water from the outside, your internal defenses will eventually be overwhelmed. You have to address the structural source of the moisture.
Which brings us down to the foundation.
Right.
If a building has a damp basement or an unsealed crawl space, the sources detail something engineers call the stack effect. How does the basement dictate the air quality on the third floor?
It's basically thermodynamics. Warm air naturally rises. In a heated or air-conditioned building, as the warmer indoor air rises and eventually escapes through the upper levels or the roof, it creates a slight negative pressure or a vacuum at the bottom of the building.
Okay, so to replace the air that escaped out the top.
The building literally sucks air up from the earth beneath it.
Wow. The statistic in the engineering reports is alarming. They state that up to 50% of the air you breathe on the first floor of a building comes directly from the basement or crawl space below it.
50%. So if your crawl space is unsealed, with like a dirt floor exposed to damp groundwater and humid outside air, it acts as a massive continuous moisture pump.
And the stack effect pulls that dense, wet air right up through the floorboards.
Exactly, right into your pristine workspace, feeding any dormant mold spores hiding behind the drywall.
So how do you shut down the moisture pump?
Through professional crawl space encapsulation. And this isn't just throwing a thin plastic sheet over the dirt. It's a comprehensive architectural seal.
What does that entail?
The protocol involves wrapping the entire space, the earth floor, the foundation walls, and the structural piers in heavy-duty, multi-layered antimicrobial vapor barriers. All exterior vents are permanently sealed off from the humid outside air.
And they use dehumidifiers too, right?
Yeah, finally, they install commercial-grade dehumidifiers tied directly into a drainage line. These units are absolute beasts. They can pull up to 100 pints of water out of the air every single day.
100 pints a day. That's incredible.
It is. And it keeps the relative humidity permanently locked below 55%. The earth is entirely sealed away from the building envelope.
So you completely cut off the chronic moisture supply at the foundation? But what happens in an acute emergency? Like the moisture isn't seeping up from the dirt, a pipe suddenly bursts on the second floor, or a severe storm floods the lobby.
Well, that is a race against biology. When sudden water damage occurs, the clock starts ticking the second the drywall gets wet.
How much time do you have?
You have a very narrow window, about 24 to 48 hours, before that relatively clean water begins to breed highly toxic mold deep inside the building materials.
Which is exactly why rapid response is the only option. And the certified experts at Hurricane Group deploy advanced thermal imaging cameras to see through the walls and map the hidden water pockets.
Right, you have to find all the water first.
Then they flood the zone with high-velocity air movers and industrial dehumidifiers. Their mandate is to reach a scientifically verified dry standard in under 72 hours. They literally race the mold clock, physically evaporating the moisture before the spores have time to wake up.
And when disaster strikes, whether it's a ruptured overhead pipe at 2 a.m. or a flooded basement after a torrential storm, having a trusted partner who actually understands the science of building health is critical.
Absolutely. Which brings us right back to why we partnered with our sponsor for this deep dive. When water is actively destroying your property, you need their 60-minute emergency response time. Do not wait for the mold to set in. Call Hurricane Group at 404-236-6343.
They really are the best in the business.
They are the leading ICRC certified experts in Atlanta for a reason. From commercial air duct cleaning and catastrophic water damage restoration to dryer vent cleaning and complete crawl space encapsulation, their massive wall of 5-star reviews proves they know how to secure a building. That number again is 404-236-6343. Protect your business from the ground up.
It really is a totally comprehensive approach. You can't just treat the symptom. You have to treat the entire building as a holistic system.
We've covered incredible ground today. We started by diagnosing the hidden sticky dangers of Georgia sludge and how it triggers sick building syndrome.
Yeah, and we unpacked a very real human and financial costs, proving that mold truly is a silent business killer.
We walked through the brilliant mechanics of industrial cleaning, using negative pressure vacuums and pneumatic whips to safely clear the system. And finally, we explored the high-tech, long-term defenses, from deep-pleated MRV filters and DNA-destroying UV radiation to cutting off the stack effect with massive encapsulation barriers.
It's a journey from understanding an invisible threat to mastering the applied physics and biology required to keep a commercial facility or a private home running safely.
And to you listening, whether you manage a 50,000 square foot corporate headquarters, retail space, or you just want to guarantee the air in your own living room is safe for your family, understanding these hidden mechanics of indoor air quality is your ultimate shortcut to being well informed. Knowing exactly what is happening inside your walls and ducts is the very first step to protecting your daily health and your bottom line.
I will leave you with this final thought to consider. We spend roughly 90% of our modern lives indoors. We constantly obsess over the organic quality of the food we eat, and we meticulously filter the water we drink. But we rarely give a second thought to the engineered air we breathe. If our buildings are essentially functioning as our external lungs, filtering and conditioning our atmosphere, are the structures we designed actually dictating our long-term health without us even realizing it?
That is a fascinating question to chew on, and it really changes the way you look at a simple ceiling vent. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep breathing easy and remember to check your filters.